Good afternoon and welcome to the next edition in our series of digital dialogues, real conversations on race, politics, and other tough topics. I'm Charlie Arnott with the Center for Food Integrity, and I want to thank you today for making the time to join us. This is going to be a fascinating conversation. We'll tell you a little bit more about it here in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to thank our friends from the Food Marketing, from the Food Industry Association, my apologies, FMI, the Food Industry Association, who have been great partners not only on this, but other initiatives as we continue to take our journey to learn more about racial justice, inclusion, and diversity in this digital dialogue series with our partners at FMI. And I'll turn it over to David Fikes, Executive Director of the FMI Food Industry Association Foundation, for his welcome and introduction. David?
Thanks so much, Charlie. Appreciate it. And welcome, everyone. And on behalf of FMI, the Food Industry Association, we really want to thank our friends at CFI for letting us partner with them on this wonderful journey in this series of digital dialogues, promoting courageous conversation on matters of racial justice.
So today, our two panelists are Tanika Cabral and Michael DiLeonardo, both from the Coca-Cola Company. But the fact that they work for Coca-Cola is just kind of coincidental today. This has nothing to do with the Coca-Cola Company. It has everything to do with two corporate leaders who decided to make a difference. Two corporate leaders who don't have responsibilities for DE&I. They don't have responsibility for human resources, but they've got business responsibilities and decided that this issue was important enough to them personally and can add value to the company, so that they decided to make a difference. They decided to take action and actually begin to have a dialogue and to drive change. And so what's empowering to me is that this has nothing to do with their position. It has nothing to do with the organization. It has everything to do with two individuals who saw a need and decided to take action. It is my great pleasure to introduce Michael DiLeonardo and Tanika Cabral. And I'll ask the two of you to just share us a little bit about your background and your story, and how in the world did you come to be here with us today? We'll throw it over to you.
How in the world? That's a great question. Well, first off, let me just say, David and Charlie, thank you for the opportunity to talk today, not just for the discussion that Michael D. and I will have, but for the work that you've done over the past few months on having these conversations every month. They are important. And, I always say that it isn't an organization, it isn't a company, it isn't even the government who will be able to fix this problem. It's the community. It's every single one of us. And so thanks again for giving us the platform to do it. Let me talk about how we got here. And I'll talk a little bit about who I am, and then I'll pass it over to Michael D. I remember a few months back when I got the request to have this conversation. And I said, you know what, I absolutely want to have the conversation, but I want to have this conversation with a white person, preferably a white male. And I chose, and I asked Michael D to join me. And that was intentional because Michael D and I are different. We don't have the same set of beliefs, arguably, right? On the surface, heart, absolutely. But a different set of beliefs, values. We have different lived experiences. And so I wanted to have a real conversation with someone to demonstrate that you can do it. You can have that conversation, and you can create a safe space to have tough conversations and walk away okay. Let's do it.
Let's do it, my friend. So we should start in the beginning, really. Okay. Because this is such an important part of our relationship. And it really is where it all started. And I guess it was it 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, maybe about 6.
6 years ago, working on a global account team. And we had a very close-knit leadership team on this account team. Somebody leads finance, somebody leads sales, me, marketing, et cetera, all the functional groups. And our VP of marketing moved on to a new role. And normally when somebody on the leadership team moves into a new role, other members of the leadership team are part of the panel that does the interviews. And collectively, we make a decision on the new leader that joins us. So this prior person moved on, and a week or two goes by, and we don't hear anything about setting up interviews. And we are off at a convention in Las Vegas for our customer. And we get a message early that morning announcing Tanika Cabral is the new global vice president of marketing for this account team. And we all were like, what? How? We're supposed to be part of the process. Where'd this come from? This just fell out of the sky. So of course, I didn't know who Tanika was. I go on my computer, I pull it up and I go, oh, okay, it all makes sense now. Female, Black, didn't want to bring it into the typical interview process. They're just putting her here. Okay, we're going to have to deal with this. She'll be here a year or two and then she'll check the box and move on to the next role. Let's minimize the damage, not get her in front of the customer. We'll make her feel good and then we'll move her on. That's honestly, and again, I'm being courageous here in this conversation. That's how I felt. And I don't want to speak for my teammates, but I'm sure they felt the same way. But what really happened is you get to know somebody because we work so many hours together. And all of a sudden you find out like, wow, she's pretty smart and she knows what she's talking about. And in that customer meeting, like she really was rocking it and she's adding value. Wow, she's pretty good. And all of a sudden you start to learn about that person. And again, I made a comment a minute or two ago, like, wow, maybe we do have more in common than we do that are different. And as you get to know somebody and you get to have conversations, you realize, maybe I shouldn't be so fast to judge.